Welcome to the Business Unfiltered series. I'm Rick Plaskett, a certified business and leadership coach, and today my guest is Ryne Bandolik. He is the founder of Jobs Done Labs. I'm going to let him explain a little bit more about that, but as we get into the interview, we're going to be talking to him about some of his business challenges, the best practices, and share a peek into what it's really like to found, build, and grow a great business. If this is your first time on the channel, please like and subscribe so you can come back and get future notifications of our conversations. Ryne, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Rick. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, you've got a very, very interesting story and a super business that was new to me. And I'd like for you to just briefly share an overview of how you got to be where you are today and give us a little bit more information from the founder's mouth of Jobs Done Labs.
Sure. Yeah, so I've had a pretty eclectic job history. I started in doing pension calculations. From there, I got a job working on the railroad as a hardware engineer, and then moved into a job at a tech company called Telnex, where we basically helped with building apps. And from there, started a trucking company. The trucking company uh, moved from being brokerage into having its own trucks. And along the way, I found my way back into my kind of tech background as I was building this company because I found there were a lot of holes and gaps that I could fix with technology. And so once AI started growing and becoming more accessible over the past year or two, I started building different dashboards and AI agents and automations for my own business. And that basically catapulted me into Jobs Done Labs, and that's where my primary focus is today. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking these skills and these um, processes and infrastructure that I've built through Jobs Done Labs for my own business, and I'm now offering it to other folks who are looking to do the same thing for their business. So we do things like, help increase your sales. We help you decrease some of your bloat with maybe excess software that you have or excess payroll that you don't necessarily need. AI just has opened many doors. And so Jobs and Labs, really the job and the hope I have with this business is that I can teach other company owners and entrepreneurs how to really get their time back.
Super, super, super. So, in the conversation that you and I had previously, you had mentioned that you have built several of your AI agents. What's the current structure of your business? Are you the solopreneur, the sole owner, or are there outside investors? And do you have other human beings as employees, or is it 100% AI driven?
Yeah. So my trucking company, we have several different drivers. I think we're up to 8 trucks now. Obviously, those are all humans. Can't use AI for that. And so I like to really empower the people on my team through the use of AI. And so we've gotten to the point where we're very lean. I've got someone who manages our fleet, who basically relies on some of the AI tools and dashboards that I've created to help, keep our trucks full, have our utilization rates be very high, to keep our maintenance budget down. All those things are tools that he never had access to before, and it's just really
Mhm.
uncovered a lot of excess revenue that we didn't have, right? And so as far as like how my team's structured, we've got someone who handles our HR and our billing. We've got 2 folks overseas that handle all our tracking and tracing and do a lot of our load booking. And then we also have myself, who wears many hats. But through the use of AI, I've been able to take some of these roles that used to require humans, like quoting or data entry, and really optimize that through AI agents.
Awesome, awesome. So let's dig down a little deeper into that. In an average day, an average week, as the owner, what's the breakdown percentage-wise of you working in the business, making things happen versus your strategic planning and visioning for the future and your future growth, which would be working on the business? How does that percentage break down for you?
If you had asked me that question 6 months ago, I would have told you 90% being in the business and 10% on the business, right? But that's changed dramatically since I've started implementing some of these things. I would say it's probably 70-30 now, with 70% being on the business and 30% being in the business. I hope to get that number to be closer to 90-10 as I continue to optimize some of my processes. But it's definitely changed a lot. And I think having some of these tools that I never had access to before has kind of paved the way for that.
Super, super. So with that increased focus into your strategy and your planning and your visioning for the future, where would you say your greatest opportunity for growth would be in the second half of this year?
I would say kind of twofold. So from the trucking perspective, I'm taking these same tools and strategies that I'm implementing into my business and other folks that I meet with and putting them into my business, right? So it kind of, I get to kill two birds with one stone. And so I think
Hmm.
through that, I'm optimizing things like just general sales. Like I have automation, so sales are constantly being going out. I do 30,000 emails a month to keep my pipeline full, right? And so I think that's one big piece where I'm seeing growth, and I'm using that within Jobs Done and my trucking company. And then the second piece is through ads and funnels. I'm finding that ads and funnels work great for a lot of service businesses, and so outside of the freight industry, I'm utilizing ads and funnels to help me um, get a lot more meetings on my calendar. And what's that in turn does is it increases my conversion rate pretty dramatically. And so to tie it back to freight one more time, I have uh, a section of my business that does Amazon Relay, right? I've got 3 trucks out in Phoenix that exclusively do Amazon Relay. They book all their own freight, and essentially, by signing on to my MC, we take a portion just like a dispatcher would, right? And so what I'm going to do with ads and funnels is I'm starting to implement that same strategy that I would like to do for home service businesses, where now I'm finding the right driver out in Phoenix, who clicks on my ad, who meets all my requirements, who's qualified, who I can quickly inject into that same revenue stream to ultimately scale like I've never been able to before. And so you take some of these concepts and you just plug them into different areas of your business, and the opportunity to scale is just like it's never been before.
Super. In the scaling, if we could distill that down, when I work with my clients who want to scale quickly, there's usually three areas that they focus on. Number one is marketing, getting more people to know about you. You don't want Jobs Done Well or Jobs Done Labs, excuse me, to be the best kept secret in the entire industry. So marketing is usually the first knob that we want to impact. And then from there, it's getting those clients, those prospects to buy from you and buy more from you. So that is the conversion rate. And then that is the, moving them up in how can we sell them more. And then the final thing is 65% of all business in the United States, big, small, just starting out, or legacy fourth or fifth generation, 65% of all sales is done through word of mouth. It's referrals. It's, hey, do you know somebody, or who do you know who? And so those are the three key things. Of those three, where would be your first biggest need to realize that growth in the second half of the year?
I think from the Jobs Done Labs perspective, where my primary focus is now, I think, like you said, word of mouth and referrals is very important to me, right? And so I think one of the, I guess, foundations for me to have success is going to be through referrals and testimonials, right? And so I'm kind of in that phase right now where I want to build a nice core of folks that I've worked with that trust me, right? I think AI automation is a new industry, right? It didn't exist before. And so it's really hard for people to trust folks that are in this industry right now because it's new. And so having like a nice Rolodex of people that you can use to, get referrals for new business and to also use as testimonials to kind of provide case studies to some new potential clients, I think is going to be huge. And so I would say that's definitely going to be my focus as I continue to move forward here.
Super, super, super. So, in addition to referrals and marketing, part of your marketing right now is education. people, you're like the Xerox machine when it first came out, and all of the people looked at it and said, "Wow, that's a neat machine, but why do I need that? I have this entire box of carbon paper that I just hand out to the typing pool." Um, they just don't know what they don't know. So education of the value of everything that you've created, the value of all of your AI bots and how quickly they can be implemented when people are still afraid to even click on Chat GPT. I'm imagining that's a bit of a challenge for some of your best new customers. They just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a lot of fear still with technology, and providing your data to something that's volatile is always scary. But I think, like we said, building trust is important. I've got a team of folks too on that side who are very well versed from a compliance perspective and security perspective. I'm not going into this, just kind of vibe coding things together. Like, it's very well
Mhm.
robustly built, and so that data is very much protected. And I think that's going to be important too moving forward, as people continue to, you know, give a little more trust to the AI industry.
Right. Now, you had mentioned the word conversion rate and the fact that I kind of got that you track that and you absolutely, that's one of your key performance indicators. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. So through our like funnels and ads approach, we're very much invested in conversion, right? We're looking at things like your LTV, your customer acquisition cost, and we're trying to, week over week, month over month, quarter over quarter, continue to show you that it's moving in the right direction, right? And so I think, like anyone, people want to see results, right? And so I think giving direct access to those results so that people can see, hey, what I'm paying for is actually working is very important. Money in the door obviously will speak for itself, but having those KPIs very well documented and illustrated, I think, just gives another level of trust. Like we said, I think that's the word that we're going to be spending a lot of
Hmm.
time on today.
Yeah, trust is absolute. Business is built on trust now. Unless you're buying a commodity from Amazon, even then, there's a degree of trust there from your past experiences. As you grow that trust and as you keep track of your key performance indicators, particularly in that conversion rate, what's your vision and what's your goal for return on investment? Are you looking at tracking this from the very first new purchase is putting you in a positive ROI, or are you looking at a lifetime value of repeat business that you're going to need several repurchases or more time in order to see the positive ROI on your investment in your marketing, your investment in new client acquisition?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, right? It depends on my ICP. I think right now I'm really trying to focus on businesses that have higher ticket offers, right? Because
Hmm.
a big commercial job, that could very easily 3x or 4x your investment in a tool like this, right? And so I think that's where it starts is the ticket cost. And so, folks that have bigger offers typically will see ROI a lot faster. So like your med spas, your plastic surgery offices, people that charge a lot, their wins go a lot further. And so I think that's
Hmm.
where my target is going to be for this
Okay.
funnel campaign. But at the same time, it's not to say that someone who has a lower ticket funnel can't be successful. It all comes down to your offer, right? And I think depending on what your offer is, that's where you're going to be able to see the level of success with an offer like this.
Absolutely, and the offer is always the value, unless you're a legacy company. If you're Apple, you can live on branding. If you're John Deere, you can live on branding. If you're Coca-Cola, you can live on branding. Beyond that, everybody else has to have an offer that the one by one by one new customer needs to see as valuable. I mean, let's face it, when you're in a sales operation, you're stepping into the ring with a potential new client, and inside that boxing ring, you're either going to convince him that you can solve his problem, or he's going to convince you and knock you out because he says, no, you can't. That's the entire sales conversion vision, wouldn't you say?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, 100%. I think it's definitely going to come down to results driven approach, right? And
Yeah.
so not being able to provide results or return on investment is going to be the deciding factor whether you win or lose.
Absolutely. So, Ryan, I'm interested in your mindset. You had talked about growing and expansion, not only in the trucking, but in the jobs done labs and the expansion into new markets. I'm curious, if you were to project forward, what's your mindset about goal setting? Let me set some parameters. I'm former military. So when I first started this business, shoot, 19 years ago now, my military was there's no substitute for victory. If I could hit two, my goal was two because I wasn't going to miss that. And it took my own personal coach months and months to say, if you know you can hit two, why not shoot for six? Even if you hit four, that's not a failure. That's better than two. So my current mindset of goal setting is if it's a goal, it's going to require me to grow, to expand, to learn, to do something. There's a gap in that goal that I don't know how to do versus two, no substitute for victory. What's your mindset on setting that goal to the future?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm very much someone who has been conservative, right? Like I always take a conservative approach. Hey, at worst case scenario, what's the least amount of money that I'll generate? And I think that aligns with kind of what you were saying, where it's like, well, hey, why think in terms of lows if you can think of terms of completely knocking it out of the park, right? And so I think that's definitely changed for me over the past couple of months where my goal now is MRR for this jobs done company. I have a specific dollar amount I want to bring in per month by the end of this year. And so let's just say, hypothetically, it's $50,000. That's what I want to do monthly. So there's lots of ways to get there, right? I could go for $50,000. I could handle fulfillment and builds for clients myself and capture a lot of that profit. Or I could outsource, get the money in the door so that it's still revenue and give a great first impression by utilizing some subcontractors or outsourcing some of the work to folks who have been doing this for a very long time and scale a lot faster, right? And then from there, ultimately pull back and then start digging into my bottom line. And so I think that's really where I found myself is let's just win the business, get the money in the door, get to my dollar amount goal monthly. And once I'm there, then I can turn my focus into focusing on the bottom line. And I think that's the same approach that I would take with any folks who are interested in AI too, right? Like let's figure out where the leaks are in your business, where the gaps are, where money's being lost, where money could be won, and let's utilize AI to quickly capture that revenue. I know obviously you've got overhead, you've got software that you might be in contracts for, or you've got employees that you don't want to let go. And I totally get that. But I think getting that ROI now, while it's very attainable, is probably the first step and where I would lead people to go. And from that ROI, then you can start making your decisions about the bottom line, right? And obviously, people are more important than process, and I will always preach that. But there's also some hard decisions to make along the way because you're seeing all these big companies let people go. And I think the way to protect your job and to stay relevant in the day and age that we're in right now is just to continue to keep up on some of these things. And that's what I want to do too for these businesses. I want to empower their people, show them how to utilize AI to the best way that they can so that they can protect their job and they also can show their bosses and other folks in the company just how valuable they really are.
That's right. AI is nothing more than a tool. It's a tool just like our cell phones were before we had cell phones. It was, we went from the brick phone in the car to the BlackBerry, and now everybody carries an Android or an iPhone. And there's so many things that it does in there. It's not really a phone anymore. When's the last time you actually talked on it? Okay, it's a mini computer device, and it's changes, but it's a tool. AI is a tool. And if we don't know how to use that tool, I mean, I'm old enough to remember that there were cars, my first car that I ever learned to drive, it took two keys, one to open the door, one to get it started. There were no cup holders, and the only check engine light was your ears listening to the engine and saying, something's not sounding right. Now I have a car that virtually slaps me in the face and dings and vibrates the seat every time my eyes glance away from the windshield, saying, "You're a distracted driver." Yeah, it's all a tool. It gets you from point A to point B. It's just doing it supposedly better, faster, safer. And that's what we're doing. And that's what you're using your tools to help others be in position to invest in the right places. I mean, when it comes to I love the tool. It's great. If you really want to have some fun with it, next time you have a party, pull up YouTube and pick out your favorite band, your favorite song, and play it. And then type right back in behind it, AI cover. Close your eyes and listen to it. You'll hear the difference. AI is great for investigating, researching, and even doing analysis and role playing. It's not so good on creating. That's why we still need the humans to be able to create and add that flavor and spice to it. And I'm going to get off my mirror there because, or my pedestal there. I do all of my coaching sessions with every single one of my clients. We have an AI minute every single time we get together because it is that important, and we need to know how to use that tool. You know, listen, Ryne, we have covered a lot of ground today, and in our conversation, you shared with me the passion of launching your new company, how it's working in your current company. And for those of you watching, I highly encourage you to come back and watch this again a few times because I think you're going to collect up a lot of great nuggets. And as we wrap this up, I want to get into a section, Ryne, that I like to call rapid fire questions. This is just a series of quick questions, top of your mind. You ready for these? You're on mute again, Mud.
Let's
There
do
we
it.
go. All right. First question, Ryne, what's your key to success?
I think it all starts with your why. Why do you do what you do, right? I think that's my key. For me, it's my family, it's my daughter, it's being a provider. I think that's what pushes me to want to continue to be successful. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they find themselves wanting more. I think when you're working for yourself, it's very hard to just be content and complacent.
Mhm.
And so I think for me, just knowing that this is my primary source of income, I don't have a choice. And so not having a choice really pushes me to be successful.
Super. I love it. I love it. I love it. Burn the boats and then see how committed you are to exploring and making the new land work. Hey, Ryan, what would you give or as one piece of advice to a new business owner that may be in your same shoes?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the business, but what I've definitely learned along the way, especially from a software perspective, is you might have an idea of something that solves a big problem for you, right? And you might think, hey, I'm going to build this. This is going to be great. Everyone's going to want it. Well, I learned firsthand that that's not the case. Um, the most important thing, I think, for someone in those shoes is to have a network and your product being defined by what that network is. So, for instance, if you know a lot of folks that are in the manufacturing industry, or maybe they're in the trades, right? That's probably where you want to start. And you want to talk to these people and say, hey, what are your problems? And when you find enough people that share the same problem, that's what you want to build. And so, if I had any advice, I would say talk to your friends, talk to your family, start there and figure out where network is the largest, and then let your ICP or your niche begin there, and then just see where it goes. Don't try to think 5 years in advance. Just take one step.
Super. Ryne, what's a book that you've read recently or are reading right now that you would recommend to the audience?
I would say Alex Hermosi's all of his books that have come out. I've put a lot of time into. I base a lot of what I do on the things that he recommends, such as, having one offer, and, niching down. And he has a lot of really great, just pathways for success. Along with his books, all his content is great too. Most people know who he is, but if you don't, I would definitely suggest reaching out.
Super, super, super. Hey, before we get to the last question of the day, if there's somebody watching this video and they want to get in touch with you, either you directly because of something you said today or because they want to become your next best client, how do they get in touch with you, Ryne?
Yeah, I would say the best way is always going to be email. My email is ryan@jobsdone.io. I'm always on LinkedIn. I try to post every single day, so you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn too. My name's Ryne Bandolik. And, I'd love to work with you or just spend some time chatting, understanding, what got you where you are today.
Super, super. So here's the last question of the day. What's most inspiring to you?
I would say seeing other people who are entrepreneurs is what really inspires me. Hearing how people went from nothing to something always just goes to the top of my mind as far as giving me inspiration for what I want to do, right? You see all these folks who, you know, started with such a small idea and then they've got 100 employees and they've got a massive warehouse and you're just like, wow, I want to be that guy. Um, I think that really inspires me and people that come from nothing and make something of themselves ultimately.
That's a bigger challenge than you and I recognize, or at least I didn't recognize it. I am a corporate refugee. I was in corporate America for many, many years before starting my own business. And the interesting challenge for me was to unlearn everything that education taught me about being a good employee, and then relearn it from an entrepreneurial mindset. And that entrepreneurial mindset absolutely taps into what you just shared of the drive, the where is it always better. But it's also the self-start and the everything is going to come from what I see in the mirror. So thank you for sharing that. Hey, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your journey. And to you, the audience, thank you for watching. Hope you're as inspired as I was listening to Ryan's story. And folks, make it a great day. Bye for now.